Okay, Ed.
Happy New Year, everyone. It's so nice to see you. I hope you survived your holidays and I hope everything was joyous. And I can't believe we're sitting here already on the 5th day of 2022. You know, it's just going to speed by us again, right? The last year was a fast one for me. I don't know about you all, but glad to have you back. And we have some really good news on our agendas today. So let's get started. So Jeannie, do you mind doing roll call for me?
No problem. Ed McBride,
Present.
Craig Borba,
Present.
Juanita Gardner is not here. David Norgard,
Present.
Al Jones.
Here.
Okay, 4 people.
So Jeannie, can you review the acceptance of the agenda, please?
Well, the agenda was posted on or before December 29th, and then you take a motion and vote to accept the agenda or accept changes.
Okay.
I'll move that we accept.
Have a second.
Yep, second.
Roll call, please.
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
Agenda's
Thank you.
accepted.
Thank you. Now is the time on our agenda for any public comment. Do we have anyone on the line that would like to come forward and have public comment?
We have a couple of guests, but I think they're just observers.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is number 4, our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to accept our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, so roll call, please.
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Accepted.
My face is too big. Let me push it back.
So let's move to number 5 on our agenda, which is our administrative reports. 5A is the Friends of the Palm Springs Library. Jeannie, who will be providing that report?
Julie, do you want to give a report for the Friends?
Sure, I do. Hello.
Hi. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to all. So the Friends initially were going to meet in person in December, but decided to stay on Zoom. So they did stay on Zoom. They continued to talk about Modernism Week. Their sales, at least as scheduled right now, are going very well. The house tour is almost completely sold out. The lecture is over 50% sold, and they had many sales for the exhibit that will be at the Wellwood. They also add a sale on their anniversary merchandise that they created for the holidays, sort of a last minute sale that they did for a couple days leading up to the holidays, where they reduced the prices of their merchandise in order to try to encourage people to buy it as gifts for the holidays. And their book sales here on the shelves at the library are doing very well. And they've also had several online book sales. So all of that is proceeding as usual. Again, they were going to try to meet in person in January, but that has been changed. So they will remain on Zoom and are still planning for Modernism Week to happen and are waiting to hear differently from Modernism Week.
Any questions for Julie on the Friends report?
Sorry.
Okay, don't go away too fast. Okay, thank you, Julie. Dr. Sidley, I see you're here. Are you going to give us a report on the foundation?
Sure. Happy New Year, everybody. I am
David.
happy to report that our year-end giving campaign was quite successful. I'm pretty sure we reached our goal of $15,000, but I'm not. I don't have the final numbers yet, but that's very exciting. And one thing to notice, we didn't have any return mail this year. So all the addresses for all the letters we sent were correct.
Wonderful.
We applied for the Bighorn grant in June, and we did not get it, which is quite disappointing because it looks like every other nonprofit in the desert got it.
Hmm.
So we were invited to apply again next year, which we will do. And we have hired Library Strategies to help us with our long range planning. And we have set the dates actually today. There's one day, a Friday in January and a Friday in February, where we'll have a strategic planning session with our board. And I am particularly excited for that. And I think that's it this month.
So
Unless
David,
anybody has
on
any
the
questions.
on the strategic library strategies, is it your intent to just kind of dust off the older strategic plan, or are you going to start all over again? What is the course of action on that?
We're going to use the plan that we have as a framework moving forward.
Okay.
But what
It's a
we're
lot
going to
to
remove
change.
is the. Sorry, Ed, I didn't hear you.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
What we're not going to do is hang everything on the city's decision to either build or refurbish the library. We're going to keep moving forward, and with or without it, because the foundation needs its own identity and agenda.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, a lot has changed since that plan was made too, right? I mean,
Yeah, that plan was made assuming that it was made before COVID, which changed everything. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the bottom line.
so the technology with the software, can you speak just a couple of minutes on the impact that had on the fundraising?
On the Bloomerang,
Yeah.
yeah, we did purchase a CRM client whatever it is, CRM, a database management system called Bloomerang that is amazing. It once we entered our names and addresses in it, you can click on any name and it will tell you their likelihood of making a donation. And you can enter any name and it will do the same thing. For example, there's a big person out there that we have been in contact with, and I clicked on that person's name and they came up red and it said very likely to donate. It's really amazing. And it organized it and it double checks it with the post office. And that's why we didn't get any return mail this year, which is great. We didn't waste any money on postage.
Wow,
Bloomerang
that's
is the
great.
name of the program.
That's great.
Yeah. Changed everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited and very proud of the foundation this year. You've done a lot of really good things. I mean, the Friends is a powerhouse, and I'm very thankful for them. But I'm glad to see you guys seem to have your legs now, and things are going in the right direction. How's board recruitment?
Good. Well, there was one name floating around that turned out to not be the candidate was not interested. One other thing I did want to mention is I believe we have put $20,000 to start an endowment for the library. So that was part of our deal with restructuring the loan, and we did do that. So the foundation does have an endowment for the library now.
What I would like to tack to this report is, you guys will recall at our last meeting, we were talking, the finance committee was talking about their meeting and the impact of the California code and how money can be invested. I have sent a formal request over to the city attorney and asked the question, the money that we loaned the foundation, are those funds under the same restrictions as if we were to go out and invest? Should they be invested that way? David has, and I had not thought about this, but David reported back that there's enough cash still in their funds that would cover the balance of our loan. So I think that in some ways we're probably safe that if we were to call that loan in, the money is still sitting there and it hasn't been invested in ways that might be questionable. But I felt it was probably still a good idea to ask the city attorney to just rule on that for future. I have not heard back from the city attorney. I'll send another note this week, but I did follow up on that. And David Sidley and David Ingen, who is the treasurer, were very helpful in answering my questions about the funds they've invested. So is that a fair representation, David, for your side?
Yeah, yep.
Good. Any questions for David or the foundation?
Good job, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeannie, staff reports. What's going on at the library? You guys have been busy. I've seen that.
Our numbers, you can see in your packet that our numbers have gone way up as far as door count and usage. So not what they were pre-COVID, but still very high numbers. We did have a Santa event. It was by reservation only, by appointment. It's very well received, a great program. And then we were set to have our January events go in person, and the COVID numbers just really spiked. So we pulled back and decided to take our events back virtually. And we will be closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the 17th. And then Julie probably should highlight some of the programs that we have going on. We do also, I didn't mention this, but we do also have our Chromebooks now in circulation. So customers can reserve and check out those. And we have hotspots. And then we did get a grant, which they're not here yet, but we got a grant for 50 more hotspots from the California State Library. And so there's a waiting list on those. But Julie, tell us more about our virtual events.
Wow. Yeah, so we do, I actually in January, I planned to do a few virtual events as well as a few in person. And so it wasn't totally that we had to restructure everything because we wanted to ease into in-person again. So I did have and do still have a lecture with Jim Cornette on the Joshua trees scheduled for January 26th, I believe. I'm getting that in front of me to tell you exactly. Yes, Joshua trees on the edge. So it's really talking about the climate impact to the Joshua trees, and it's with Jim Cornette, as I said, on January 26th at 3:30. And so people can register by contacting me, and then I will send the Zoom link the morning of the lecture. We had a personal archiving workshop scheduled that was going to be an in-person event. And we have rescheduled that to March, hoping to remain an in-person event because of the nature of the topic. We think it'd be better, easier to present and easier to ask questions and to interact if we kept it in person. So we're going to try that, but we are working on an alternative online version if for some reason we aren't able to do in person at that time. And that is a couple of hour workshop. Learning how to archive your personal records, family histories, photos, special papers, whatever it is that you have that you want to keep. So you can learn how to, keep it so it will be preserved so that you can view it. So it'll last many, many years and not disintegrate in a closet, in a drawer, something like that. So we're going to talk about that. And then now we still have our memoir writing class going on. That's a once a month group that meets. Let's see, I have some things actually scheduled in February, now on Zoom, an author lecture coming. We're going to see what's going to happen with Modernism Week because we do have a couple of events scheduled here at the library during Modernism Week. And so we'll see how that's going to go. So, I'm kind of preparing for either or scenario. And reacting appropriately. I do want to mention that also in December, we did have the Dionne Warwick receive the star at the Palm Springs Stars right outside the Wellwood. So that was a really fun event that we had there in December. And then I had a mining lecture also in December online. And then finally, you will be, in terms of other news coming, you will be receiving for the February packet, I believe, is the information about the railing at the Wellwood that has been awarded to Architectural Resources Group. And we had a Zoom meeting to start the project in December. And they sent someone on site to look at the site, as well as we provided plans and pictures. And so they're working on some options that we will present to the board, I think in February is what I was told. Okay, that's all I know.
Thank you. Any questions for Julie or Jeannie? As always, thank you guys for your service and what you do. Appreciate it. Our next agenda item is the treasurer's report. So I'm going to turn this over to our treasurer.
Yes, thank you, Ed. I did meet with Jeannie, and I think, do you all have copies of the report that was run on the 28th of December? Jeannie, does everyone have a copy? Yeah.
Yes, that's in your packet. And I
Okay,
did send out, well, I emailed the revised packet, so
Okay, good.
with the financials, so you
Right, I
should
just wanted
have
to be
those. I
sure.
can put them on the screen too if you need to.
No, that's not necessary, I don't think. This was run on December the 28th. We're midway through the fiscal year. There's nothing out of the ordinary. The expenditure is about what you would expect midway through the program. In terms of donations, there are a couple. One, there's a $1,500 donation that's not yet been posted. Now that will appear. That was from Linda Jarman. There was that one from Renee Klickman you saw last month, which has been posted. And in terms of where our balance is at 1.865 million, and last month we were at 1.871 million. So we have a difference there of spend down of about 6,470. We identified 2,000 as a payment against a note receivable. And Jeannie, when you and I last talked, you were going to try to track down the remaining 2,470 to see where it was. I always like figures to balance. Were you able to identify where that remaining amount was?
Yes, what happened was I did talk to the finance director and they said that they were still getting the financials cleared up, and
Okay.
and I did run the reports again, and I sent you guys an email, and the actual the bottom line balance, when I ran those reports again, they weren't what we had seen, where there was that the difference of 6,500. So it's $1,865,056.95, and that is consistent from period 5 to period 6. Period 5 is $1,865,934. So it seems like they cleared up the problem or question about where's that money. It wasn't
Right.
really.
Wasn't
It wasn't
missing.
really.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't
just
really our
wasn't.
money, I guess.
Yeah, so we're still working on cleaning up some, but we're getting closer, I think, with each passing month. As I say, you have a copy of the balance sheet for 2022, which shows for the month through the month of December, the first 6 months of the year. As I say, if you compare it with last month, there's not much change, and there's not really anything more to note on it. You've got the detail too if you needed it, but unless you have any questions, that would end my report, Ed.
Any questions?
I move that we accept.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
And it's approved. 4-0.
So, Al, are you feeling like you're getting much more comfortable with these reports and
Oh,
getting your hands
absolutely.
around them?
Yeah, yes, indeed I am. It's
Good.
Genie's been very, very helpful. We went through it. I have a very good understanding of it now, so I feel very comfortable.
Good, thank you. And as we were talking before you joined, I think that, they're still settling with this transition to this new system. So thank
Yeah.
you for keeping an eye on it and questioning anything that doesn't add up, because we don't want anything to get lost in that transition, right?
No, we don't. And I think we're doing a pretty good job, and Genie's helping to stay on it as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. Our next item is 7A, which is, speaking of money, it looks like that we have some money coming in, which is very nice. We haven't had that in a while. That's this size, I should say. So I'm very thankful for every penny we've been getting this past year. So Jeannie, you know, take it from here.
Yes, the estate, the estate of, lost it, Paul Scheibner and Irene Scheibner has left the library trust fund $25,000. And so because it's an amount of $25,000 or higher, there is a provision that you have to accept the gift.
That you have to what? Accept?
You're required to accept the gift. We can't just take it.
Why would we not? Oh, you mean accept it in terms of a formal action?
Yeah, you have to take a formal
I
action
was gonna say,
to receive
why
it.
would we not accept it? Yeah, okay.
It's all in pennies.
Yes.
Jeannie, on the 2 pages that you gave us, I don't see the figure 25,000.
Yeah. I
It
don't
doesn't
either.
say, I just was told by the law firm, they contacted me
Klatchkos?
and,
Okay,
yeah, Klatchkos, they called me and said, we need you to accept this gift and we want to cut the check this week and it's for 25,000.
good.
Which is
do
great.
have a-
I wasn't even sure we were left any money the way it read. It's like they were
Yeah.
required to advise us, but it was like, okay, so, but there's no indication we got anything. So that's helpful.
I do have a question. This is great news, of course. I'm curious to know, however, if there are any stipulations to it.
At this point, there are no stipulations that I have been made aware of. And that is one thing that's one of the reasons why you do have to accept gifts, because sometimes there are strings attached or it's coming from, it could come from a group that you don't want to be associated with or whatever. But so that's just, this procedure has been in place for years and years, but they have not told me that there are any restrictions or terms on this. It's just a gift.
Okay,
Jeannie, do you think we'll see this in the February budget? Or is that too soon?
It depends on when they send me the check. If maybe. We'll see.
Thank you.
I have one other question. Jeannie, are you familiar with either of the decedents here, Paul or Irene?
I'm familiar with their names. I know that I believe they were longtime friends of the library. I'm not really sure, but and Julie would know.
Yeah, actually, they were longtime library supporters, and every year they would give a monetary gift around the holidays. Even before I came, even back in 2006. So, I mean, they've been longtime supporters of the library, and I know so I'm not actually surprised that they did that. So it was exciting to hear, though, that it's finally coming to the library, but sad that they passed.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, I think for the record, we should all say that we're very thankful for the family and for their continued dedication to the library. And I think that we should, I'd like to have a motion that we accept this gift from.
I'll move that we
Vista.
accept.
Have a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
I'm always chasing that mute button. Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba, David Norgard,
Yes,
Al Jones.
Yes.
4-0 accepted.
So Jeannie, you'll provide the thank you letter as you always do. And can you please make
Yeah.
sure that the
Well-
board that lets them know that we're very thankful for this and thank them for the gift. So.
Yeah, one thing that the city also requires that it goes to city council too. We're pretty sure, just so that they can acknowledge the gift, as a formality. So if you see it on the city council agenda, just know that that's why. It's just a thing. And then FYI too, I just did a search on our list of our the donor wall that's out in the main room. And they are on that. So they
Wow.
like Julie said, they've been donors for a long time, because that donor roll hasn't been updated since 2003 or something.
Well.
Let's not even talk about that.
So very thankful for them. Maybe that's a project that you can hand over to the foundation and ask the foundation to pick that up and make sure it's updated.
Or we can do a virtual donor wall, which we do on the curb. We do our virtual donor wall.
I see that David's up, but I did think that would be appropriate for them to, there he is. The donor wall, David, maybe the foundation could look into helping maintain that and keeping it updated.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, honestly, we prefer a virtual one so that it can be
Yeah.
fluid and change because the wall gets dated and like.
Could maybe between the library and the foundation and maybe even the Friends, that could be something that could be on their website and show a virtual donor wall. That'd be a great idea. So, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Isn't there a donor wall in the library?
Mhm.
It hasn't been updated for almost 20 years.
Long time.
Well, I knew it was there.
So
And
we
I guess-
switched to a virtual version. We do it on the LED sign outside. And so it can change as the donors change and get updated immediately if we want to.
I guess maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, and Jenny, you'll give me the evil eye if I am, but I was thinking that this might give the foundation a way to promote those that have given us money in the past and in the future and help you create some publicity around that and thank people.
Let's shoot for the new library, the renovated library for something like that.
In
Not-
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something to think about, David. I mean, okay. Let's see.
I'm
Next
getting
up.
feedback. I'm getting feedback. Is anybody else hearing the feedback? Like a radio?
Is it me?
I don't know. What are you doing?
I'm hearing it too, but I feel like it's coming from somebody. So I guess don't like mute yourself when you're not speaking, and that would help.
Okay, I'll mute.
Our next item is 7B, the PR campaign funds proposal. And this was something that was on our discussion last month. We probably wore poor Julie out talking about it, but looks like she scratched her head and come up with some great ideas. So Julie, it's over to you now.
Sure. This is following up. In your packet, you received the report that you requested of everything that I could scrounge up and find from the PR campaign that was started back in 2019 and into COVID 2020. Hopefully you've had time to review the report. And what I would like to concentrate on today is the proposal for that I am bringing to you guys that I presented in December, because I have more details about that. So I would like to concentrate on that, but of course I would answer any questions regarding the report previous to that. Is that course of discussion okay with everybody? Okay, thumbs up. Okay. All right. So as I had requested per your request of what to do with the remaining $5,263 of the original $25,000 budget, I had proposed to do an online web banner campaign that would highlight some of our new services and resources, such as the Chromebooks and the hotspots and so on. I wanted this to be at least a 3-month campaign, and it would again be all online, virtual, nothing printed. When I reached out to the Jones Agency, who was our originator of the campaign, I discussed this idea with them, and they did also want to include a few pro bono items that actually did include one printed item. And so the deliverables would be an updated campaign utilizing the resources that we were created originally, but just updating them with our current messages about our new services and things like that. Updating the wrap card, which was the one printed piece that we had. They felt like we should do that. And then working with me to come up with the media plan, which I then detailed here. So the creative and the budget with the updated radio and online ads. And this is online radio, not network radio. So I wanted to confirm with that. So that total came up to $5,000. So I kind of will go through this as I proposed a 3-month campaign, and it would be spread out among mobile and online. So that's what I detailed in the report to you. Hopefully that made sense. Again, I don't want to read to you what you've already written. So, so anyway, and then as you can see, we had a lot of different opportunities to reach a lot of different people and a lot of different mechanisms. And then the impressions, projected impressions for each of the 30 days was quite high. So I was pretty pleased with that. I did look into the opportunity to advertise at the airport. I first initially talked to a contact at the airport, then I went in person to the airport and we walked around and looked at all of these different locations. And the airport, because we're a department of the city, is willing to give us for free some locations within the airport, either digitally or static printed items. If we went the static printed route, we do have to pay for the actual printing and then the mounting and installation of whatever the advertisement might be. Digital is we would be able to start, the campaign with the creative that we already have, and it's digital. It's something that we could change on a daily basis if we needed to. The thing about being free, though, is that we have to kind of slot in whenever they have openings. It's not a guaranteed certain time, and it's not a guaranteed a certain location per se. For instance, if they sold the static location that we were at, then we would be pulled down and the paying customer would be installed. Digital, we have a little bit more flexibility, but they do have so many different slots, and then but they're willing to give us some of their free slots so that we could try it out. So that's actually my recommendation. I had requested pricing, like if we just wanted to pay for it, for advertising at the airport, just, to know what we would be talking about. And I did receive that after you got your packets after the new year. So if we were to have one of the static printed location, depending on location, a 1 period, which is a 4-week increment, at one of the at the Sunny Bono terminal above the restrooms, which was a mural horizontal, it'd be $5,720 for a period. So that's basically a 1 month. And that includes both the space and the printing and installation costs. If we wanted to be by the escalator in the Sunny Bono terminal, which is one of the other places I recommended, that would be $1,450, so $1,450 for a 1 month period. And then if we wanted to pay for digital advertising, initially the going rate is $5,000 per period, which is again a 4-week time frame. But you're on 10 screens, you're in baggage, you're in baggage claim, you're in kiosk, you're in the welcome area kiosk, and you're in the regional jetway. But they would be willing to discount and give us a nonprofit rate of $2,000 for a 1 month increment. And again, that would be the total cost, because we wouldn't have to pay for any kind of printing or installation, which are all very reasonable amounts considering the number of people that go through there. However, I'm, and just observing as I went in person and we kind of watched people interact with these advertisements. I mean, obviously when people are standing there waiting for the baggage, that's when you have the most visibility, because people are looking around and trying to, like kill time while they're waiting for their bag. But I would rather test it out on a free option than have, spend the foundation money, the trust fund money on paid advertisement that may or may not give us what we want. So my recommendation still goes back to doing the online web campaign to utilize the remaining $5,000 some odd dollars, utilizing the media plan that I gave to you in the report, as well as using that same creative on the digital displays at the airport and seeing how that goes. Again, I would note, the time that we would be up and the numbers through. I would try to have a call to action that we would try to measure in some way. But again, it might just be more of an awareness building than a real true deliverable that we could 100% measure. So I want to be clear, on the expectations there. So that is my report and recommendation, and I'm happy to discuss.
So I have a couple of questions, Julie, for you. First of all, if having been in that airport many times, as all of us have, if you're standing there reading the information, how would I know that if I'm visiting from Detroit, Michigan, that I can use the library from the signage? Would we be able to say, let me say, I'm from Sacramento and I'm down for Modernism Week. Would there be something that would say, library service is free to California residents? And, I mean, I'm saying, you're not getting at now. So how would I know if that caught my eye? Is it worth going to the library to use it? Because that would be my first question. And then second question would be, it sounds like you've gotten, I think you've answered our question from last time. Thank you, from my perspective. Before we jump to the airport, is there any other place that we haven't thought of that is a place where a lot of our potential users might go? So I'll stop there.
Okay, so if I could answer those two questions, and then I'm sure that is gonna make other questions. So, okay, so first of all, yes, absolutely. We can customize our messaging to be whatever we want. So for instance, the creative that I included in the, just as an example, we had done Palm Springs Library Destination Entertainment, audiobooks, e-magazines, ebooks, movies, music, TV, all for free. We would add in there something about, all for free to California residents. Visitors can get a, low cost visitor card or something like that, so be aware that all of our creative is changeable. We can make it, to say whatever messaging we want. And the good thing about digital is we can update that message. So if we tried something, we tried a specific message and we didn't feel like, it was saying the correct thing, or it wasn't, resonating, we could update that message and have a new creative within, a very short amount of time, within, I'd say 24 hours or less, for them to update the digital image in their system. So however long that would take. So it would be easy to, create custom messages for however it is that we felt like we wanted to communicate with those visiting or the residents who were going through the airport. So that's to your question number one. To your question number two, part of what we did in the original awareness campaign was to look at some of those spaces where we, we're trying to reach community members. So if you recall, and I think I outlined it in the report, we explored bus signs, we explored bus stop signs, we explored signage in movie theaters. So we did investigate several other community spaces that we thought would give us some reach into the community that maybe we hadn't traditionally tried before. We also did radio, we also did TV, and that was our very first foray into TV. And so, there were lots of other mechanisms that we tried. So I definitely think that, that was definitely a part of our awareness campaign at the very beginning, and it continues to be as we look at this airport opportunity and see if that is a space that would be good for us or not. And I think, with the remaining, adjusting the creative and using the remaining funds to do so, and that we could utilize, I think it's another good test for us, and just again, to get the word out about the library. And I think depending on if you guys want to do, ongoing campaigns in the future, we could continue to look for those other specialized opportunities that maybe we haven't taken advantage of before.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments.
Sure, great.
Julie, I really appreciate what you did on this, especially the extra work you did at the airport. Those photographs were very helpful. It helped me understand what you were talking about. And I do really like this advertisement. So hopefully you can just make the additions that Ed suggested on that. We have another locked in audience that it's related to the airport. But if anybody's gone by the airport and watched the long lines of people getting their COVID tests, these people will probably be in need of a lot of these services. It would be nice if we could put a poster there. And if the airport controls that area, then maybe we can just put a small billboard. What is that, an A-frame, whatever, I forget what they call that, and put that there. People are looking for things to do as they're waiting in line forever. But it's mostly our community people here. And if they do have COVID, this might be the services they want.
From home. Virtual access, please. We could, Julie, we could explore the Castle Banner program too. I'm not sure how how active it is on that street, but those banners that are along
Right.
that drive
Oh,
Right.
you're right.
are for rent, but it's pricey.
Right,
And we don't get that for free, even though it's a city program.
right.
And
Just
we
like
can
just like the downtown banners, we've done downtown banners before. And again, we don't get that for free either. But that reminded me of some other, kind of non-traditional advertising we have tried and done. But I'm not sure about the testing site, Craig, but it's something we could possibly look at. I mean, the A-frames are fairly inexpensive, less than a couple $100s to print up on both sides and buy the sign itself. So that's fairly inexpensive, but I don't know what the rules would be if they would let us put something up there or not, because every organization might be trying to do that. So I have no idea, but I can always ask. That's not a problem to ask and find out.
All right, I appreciate that, Julie.
Sure. Anybody else, Al?
Yeah. Well, as you know, I was on the airport commission for 6 years, the last 3 years as chair of the commission. And actually, when under my watch, where we did the messaging in the baggage area, my problem with that is one who comes through, but maybe because I come through so much, or Ed and others, it really has to be a very quick, concise statement to catch the attention. It can't be long because people's attention spans are exhausted when they come off. There are other areas I would explore of having that kind of messaging, actually, for people who are going out of the airport, but they're also coming in. So there is that aspect as well. I just wonder, to what extent do we do anything with the hotels and the convention center? It seems to me, if I were handed something checking into a hotel that explained what I could take advantage of at the library, might be a more useful tool. And that's what question number one. Secondly, the second question is, and I don't know the exact phrase because I'm not a techie, but it's kind of like a web pop-up when somebody goes on the web to research something, where we pay that our name comes up at the top or something. I don't know. There's a phrase for that. That's the other one. And then talking about any maybe conversation with Scott White and CVB. I mean, it goes beyond just our area, but there's some other areas as well. I'm concerned that just a messaging in the baggage area at the airport is not going to capture the attention. There are a lot of ads about marijuana stores, and those are the things that do capture people's attention. And that was the intent, quite frankly, is for people to find out where they could get their marijuana, medicinal marijuana. So I don't know. I'm very skeptical. We did a whole bunch of research. We used to do billboards. We used to do the digital advertising the airport, and we finally gave up. We said this was not an effective use of our fund. And our funding, by the way, for marketing for the airport was only 70,000, which was outrageous given our overall budget of about 26 million. So, but there's a lot of people that come in and out. So it just seems to me we could maybe maximize it. But what do we do, if anything, with hotels and even restaurants and convention center?
Okay, so to answer your question, so first so if we did do the digital, I am recommending doing the free version, so we aren't paying for something that we're just experimenting with. And then also, it wouldn't just be in the baggage area, it would be in the welcome area, the in and out, as well as at the terminal too. So we would actually be on all 10 of the digital screens available at the airport. So that is good news too. So we would be spread out through. So just so you know that. To answer your question about hotels and restaurants and convention centers. So prior to COVID, we had quite a lengthy distribution list where we had a printed brochure that we took around, like Genie's showing right now, that we used to produce. It was in English and Spanish, and we took it around to, goodness, many, many different hotels, restaurants, community spots.
Close to 50, probably almost 50, 30 to 50 spots.
Yeah, it was many, and they were big, they were, regular hotels, larger hotels, smaller boutique hotels, several restaurants, as well as like AAA and the community resource centers, Mizell, the center, so places where we hit a lot of people. So anyway, so we used to distribute that all the time. And so people were able to get information about what was going on. I also talked with a lot of the concierges at the big resorts, and I would provide to them a separate list of some of the highlights of some of the upcoming larger events that we were having and things like that. But, everything's different now with COVID. And so right now we aren't doing any outreach into those particular locations. If we did get the RAP card that the Jones Agency is recommending that we update, we could distribute that to those local places, once again, just as an informational card that, you know, lets people know at a hotel that these things are available to them at the local library and they could utilize it while they're here. But beyond that, we don't have plans for any other printed materials or things going on. We would kind of see and make measure of these online websites, because they will be, you know, getting our pop-up ads, you know, when they go online and looking for all different sorts of things, including restaurants, including activities, attractions, and things like that. So, you know, I think that this 3-month campaign will kind of help us and show us some, you know, of the areas of where we could be most successful to reach people. And then finally to CVB, you know, we're, you know, one of several libraries in the Valley. You know, we do have them on our press release distribution list and things like that. So they are aware of the things that we're doing. But I can't say that we have a, you know, a strong campaign with CVB or, you know, any of the others. I do probably work most with Palm Springs Tourism Group and Randy Gardner there. So, you know, I do have a relationship with them, and they do help us promote different things. So, and that's probably the one, you know, where, because that's in our community, the one we concentrate on the most.
Julie, that's helpful. Ed, it occurs to me, I'm just thinking out loud here, because you're also on the main street, as I am, trying to look around the room. I don't know if anybody else is, but maybe we could ask to have Jeannie and or Julie make a presentation sometime to Main Street. I mean, these are all of the businesses on Palm Canyon and Indian. I'm a member because of I have a business license with the city, but I'm not in the core area. So I'm kind of an associate member. I don't know, what are you? But it just occurs to me to make them more aware of what the services are available and elicit some ideas from them on how we might market it, because we're really talking about marketing.
And actually, we have done that in the past. I had a whole talking tour for Genie, where she went to Main Street. She went to different groups like the Kiwanis and the Lions and the what, you know, and different community groups. Yes, I mean, so that definitely, again, that's prior to COVID, we used to do that. So that might be something, you know, since the groups weren't meeting in person, we're meeting on Zoom. Maybe that's something that we can investigate having her do again, because it has been a bit. But definitely that we used to do that quite often, and it's probably something we could revisit.
I think that'd be a good thing. We meet on the 1st and the 3rd Tuesdays, I think, of the month. Is that right, Ed? I'm trying to recall. And getting on the agenda, I think would be a good thing. We do meet by Zoom. We're still meeting by Zoom.
Okay.
Juanita?
Juanita, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm just, my niece was here for a few days from Washington State, and so she was in one of those vacation homes. And they had, when you walked into the vacation home, in the entryway, they had just some information about Palm Springs, you know, different activities to do. What about vacation homes? I mean, I know that this particular person was very helpful in providing information for them while they were here. I wonder if other vacation homes do the same, and if a flyer or, you know, something from the library would be helpful to people who are maybe staying a little bit longer, or, you know.
So that's a great idea. And I know when I had a vacation home, I had a whole binder that had all sorts of different things in it. So definitely, I think that varies from vacation home to vacation home. If they're managed by a particular management company, there's a few here that we could possibly reach out to and ask if they would be willing to place information about the library in each of their, you know, rental properties that they're managing. So that's definitely something that we could look into and investigate, again, because we haven't had any printed materials for quite some time. There hasn't really been anything, but if we do update the rack card, at least that could be something possible that we could provide to them, that, you know, that they could place in there. But if it's somebody that's doing their own, you know, through Airbnb or VRBO or whatever, that's kind of on a case-by-case basis of them, you know, just picking and choosing what they want to have in their home and make available. But I think I had made a note, you know, that, you know, I could, you know, contact a few of the vacation rental management companies and see if they would be willing to do that if we did proceed with the printed piece. So That's a good idea.
Very good idea.
I would like I think that is a great idea. And I think that we have I know a lot of people who are here for a month at a time. So, it's a great idea. I also like to go back to Al's comment about Main Street. We are part of Main Street. One of our service locations sits on Palm Canyon. So by
That's true.
default, we are part of that
Right.
group. So I think that it probably, and I will tell you that one of the frustrating things that Tad and I have had with being business owners downtown is that group, they've been struggling with a lot of different topics. I think it would be kind of refreshing to hear from a community resource and remind them that we help them in more ways than they realize. People walk in that building and say, where do I find the best Italian food in town? And they direct them, right? They tell them where to go or what's on Main Street and downtown. And I think they need to be reminded that how can we help them more? Because as businesses, we really do need all the help we can get.
Yeah, and I think the last time I was there, the topic of discussion was our career online high school and promoting that because it's a great program for the employees of these businesses. It's a great way to help your own business by helping your employees get their high school diploma. So yeah, we're very amenable to doing all that. I think we're maybe getting in the weeds a little bit on this topic. So can we push this along?
I will. I think we've all got some good ideas, and it's all the ideas are coming from, we want the library to be out there and in front. So I think you guys know that we're trying to support you any way that we can. So,
yeah, and
as
it's
a
just the
representative
pandemic has really just wrecked our schedule and our plans for doing outreach right now.
We hear you. We understand. We're not
I have just one-
fighting against you.
I have a
Yeah,
question for you,
Craig.
Julie. You left it open-ended in your report about when to start this. And I'm thinking that might be something that might be important for us to discuss before we approve this.
Sure. So initially you had asked me back in November or October to come to November with some information. And then December, I came back with the recommendation, then you wanted the report. So again, my goal would be to start it as soon as possible. If you asked me for this report before you would decide on how I could spend the remaining $5,000. And so I'm still giving you the same recommendation, but with more detail. So if you were to approve the spending of this $5,263.46 remaining, then I would start immediately on updating the creative and getting things, scheduled, and I'd be ready to go. So, I wouldn't want to wait for any reason. I would want to spend it in, this fiscal year and use the remaining funds as I have recommended.
So
Yeah, the only concern I have there, Julie, is if the library for some COVID reason is shut down for a period of time, I'm just wondering for some of that stuff, whether we should delay it for maybe a month or two, but let you get started on all the other things.
Well, I think definitely, we'll make the best decisions and tailor the messages accordingly. If for some reason there was a closure, then that would be an easy pivot for the messaging to direct people to all of our online resources that they would be able to get, as well as our, library to go. So services. So, I think whatever the future brings, we would be able to pivot the messages pretty quickly, especially since it's an all online campaign, which definitely would make it easier to pivot.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make the motion that we approve the proposal as presented, including the airport recommendation.
Yeah.
we have a second from Al or Juanita. Is that correct? Or Juanita, are you raised your hand for a question or discussion?
No, I was just going to second that motion.
Let Juanita second. I'll withdraw.
Juanita has seconded this. So may we have roll call?
Yes, Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
Juanita Garner,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Let me say, Julie, thank you. You went above and beyond as always in asking our question, and we appreciate the detail you gave it, and spend that money.
Okay, thank you, I will.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda. Sorry, guys, let me go back to the agenda. I don't put it to memory, I know.
It's the
some of you
report
may
on the
know.
conversation with
Oh,
Lisa.
thank you. Thank you, Trustee Jones. So, and I'll keep this brief. As you may recall, we had talked about having a conversation follow up with the mayor, and I had initially started the request for a conversation with Mayor Holstage. Of course, when she transitioned out and Mayor Middleton took over, I reached out to her and she immediately said, yes, let's talk. So Al and Jeannie and I set up a meeting with her. It was last week, right? It was a
Yes.
week ago.
It was the day I came back
And
from the Puerto Vallarta.
that's correct. So basically our conversation was, what can we do? First of all, I said, look, is there any possibility of any money being available to the library this year? Always have to ask that question. And she pretty much came back with the budget is under review. There's a lot of things in flux. And of course that was, now we're having more discussion around the impact of the COVID epidemic. So, but she said, you know, if there's any possibility, you know, we'll definitely will consider that. But she said, my strongest suggestion to all groups associated with the library is get your act in order, get ready for when we can start focusing on money becoming available. And she was very pleased to hear that all the groups came together and applied for the Measure J. And that's a really great start. She agreed with us on that. And by the way, she was very excited to hear that we would take that money and do something, even though it might be small, that's still a great impact to community and creating a new meeting room and the services that would provide. And then she was well aware, as she's always been, that we have two projects that we're watching, and that is the refurbishing of the Fry building as well as a new main library. So she kind of said, it's time for you to just start letting people know, including council, what are the plans, what are the desires, what does the library need? And so we took that away as we're going to, Al and I are going to set up a call with Jeffrey Bernstein, who chairs the Measure J commission, just to kind of bring him up to speed on where we are and what we're thinking and what we can do. And the final follow-up to that is, once we kind of have we've brought that group up to date, is to make a point to bring up all of the city council members so they know what we're working on, and the city manager needs to be looped in, of course. So I think that we are on our way to creating or solidifying a plan, and the mayor was quite supportive of it. She stated, as Jeannie and Al can testify, that she's still committed to libraries and the importance to libraries in our community. And she has been one of those who has supported us back to when we did that strategic plan back in the, it seems like it was forever ago, but it was 3 years ago. So we have her in our corner, and I think she gave us some good advice to now go and start telling the story and getting people ready. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions, or if Al or Jeannie, any comments you'd like to add to the conversation.
No, I think that was a thorough, concise summary.
The get your ducks in a row is our next
Clear.
task.
Yeah, and so my plan is to also loop in, of course, the foundation and the friends in this conversation, because there are allies here too. So when I talk about getting our ducks in order, it's a good story already with their success, but I think we need to start solidifying just what we need, and identifying, you know, a roadmap. And next stop is the Measure J group. So keep you posted. Al was going to reach out to Jeffrey Bernstein to see if we can get on his calendar sometime soon and talk to him. So, okay. Next item is Finance Investment Ad Hoc Committee. Are there any updates, Trustee Borba, Trustee Jones, that you want to add to that?
No.
Not that I'm aware of. Al and I have to get together.
Yes, we haven't yet. I was
You're-
out of town. In fairness, I was in Mexico. So what can I tell you?
Okay, and I'm gonna let you know that I'm leaving tomorrow.
That's right. You're going away for a while, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be back on the 23rd. So
Uh,
after that time,
Of January?
yeah. be
Oh,
back the
that's
20th.
only a couple weeks. Yeah, that will do that after that.
Okay, all right.
Maybe we'll have had that meeting also with Measure J and have a little more information about some of that.
Yeah.
That might help inform those discussions.
Uh,
Okay.
Though we're on this item real quickly, Jeannie, I brought up, and I'm not sure, I thought you said that we're not sure where our initial trustees money came from. Is that true?
No, that's not true. We've got, it was all donations.
So
Over
none of
the
it is
decades.
tax dollars.
No, it's
Yeah,
all
see,
donations from individuals or estates and whatnot.
yeah, and the concern I have is the money that's restricted on investments. That law, I thought, was based on tax dollars.
Mhm.
And if that's
Mhm.
true, then our money was just mingled with the city's money, but it's no longer under those restrictions if we pull it out. So just a thought.
I'm sorry, Craig. I thought that the conversation from the city attorney was that now that it's been commingled and we do pull it out, that it still is under those restrictions, even if it did, the original source was not tax dollars.
Yeah, see, I don't know if we pushed him on that issue as much,
Okay.
or if he even know what the source of our dollars was.
Good point.
But it seems so restrictive that our investments are so limited based upon this law that was really related to tax dollars.
I think that once it's given to the city, then it's the city's money. So then the city is responsible to follow the law. So that could be the reason why it's considered city money, is because it was given to the city. Because
it's certainly
when
a
these gifts
point.
come in,
Gotcha,
they come
sir.
into the library. And so the library is a department of the city. And so thus it's given to the city.
Oh, man, I'm
Well-
falling back on Ed's idea that we give the foundation another loan and allow them to invest our money so we get a better return.
I think that, to you and Al, that might be something we really want to get in, something in writing from the city attorney once and for all, because he's been very good about saying, this is it, right? So maybe that's a question we should pose to him, and I will try to get a question about the money that we loan to the foundation as well, but all things we need to be, I think, have documented, don't you?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, thank you all. So the final item is any trustee staff comments, future agenda items that we might have. Does anyone have anything?
No?
Yes, trustee Norgard.
Yes, I just wanted to call your attention to an article that I read in the Smithsonian Magazine. It's November issue. It was a full feature article on the new museum, the new library in Memphis. I realized that Memphis is a much larger city, but rarely do I see an article of that proportion on a city library. And so I think it would be interesting for us all to take a look at.
Do you mind sharing? That's where I started my library career, was at the Memphis Public Library.
Is that right?
I was
wow.
there twice. Yes, in my life. It's a great library. It's always been a great library. It's an example of where a library has taken on other city services. It's also an information and referral spot. It's social services. Everything comes together. That was something that was very unique back in the 80s that was built into that library. So it's a great library system. I'd love to read the article. So is this month's issue of Smithsonian? Is that what you said?
November.
November. Okay.
I was catching up over the holidays.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great example too. Thank you. Any other comments or observations?
Nope.
So Jeannie, you'll keep us posted on the day-to-day actions, and let us know if there's anything that we can do to help you, support you and the staff. And if there's no further business of this board, I'm going to call the meeting to close. The time I have is 6:36. And our next meeting will be,
I just shared the article with you. You can Google it.
oh,
Go
thank you.
to Google Smithsonian Magazine, and then once you get into their magazine, just do a search. I searched Memphis, and I got how Memphis created the nation's most innovative public library.
That's a great article. I love it.
Yeah,
Great.
so we'll keep you updated on the library happenings, and everybody stay safe, wear your masks, wear surgical or better masks.
Jeannie, next date, our next meeting date will be,
February.
2nd. My grandpa's birthday.
great. Thank you for your service, everyone. We'll see you and stay safe.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Jeannie, can you and I talk for just a moment?